Welcome to Codex, a history of video games. My name is Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week, we are going to continue on talking about Pokemon. Mike, this is all you, buddy.
Here I go. Okay, so first thing first, I have a new segment. It's called Correction and Apologies, starring
Does it have a jingle?
Matt. Corrections and Apologies. That's
Nice.
the jingle
Love
for it. Okay, so Matt sent us an email, and I got some stuff wrong, and we have some things to add as well. So first, apparently I did say Dojin correctly as the name of the shop, but I don't remember if the way I just said it is how I said it last episode, so we're just going to move right along. So those shops in particular are for self-published works, but a lot of them are self-published, it turns out. Matt lives in Japan, by the way, so he is an expert, is because they tend to use already copyrighted characters in fanfic stories that might not be safe for work, if you know what I mean.
So they're in, it's not always like content for all audiences.
Yeah, they're in precarious situations.
Adult content.
Yes, adult situations, I guess is the way I would put it. Japan actually holds a biannual event called Comiket, short for Comic Market, where hundreds of doujin artists and authors sell their works to fans. So it's apparently one of the biggest otaku events in Japan. That is awesome. So, Tyler, you said there were no bug-type moves that deal damage. Guess what? Matt's like, there were.
We need a button
moves.
that's just like, wrong.
Yeah, I know, exactly. You can make the ant noise every time one of us gets something wrong. But in Gen 1, there was Twin Needle and Pin Missile, and apparently
But those moves are awful. They may as well not exist.
Yeah, that's exactly what Matt says. He's like, the Beedrill can learn both of them, and Jolteon can learn Pin Missile, but they're still bad. They're still not very good. Also, Ghost types were apparently strong against Psychic, but because all of the Ghost Pokemon were also Poison type, which is weak against Psychics, it kind of washed out.
Yeah.
So that's what was going on in Gen 1.
I think that was supposed to be like the point of Ghost-type Pokemon, too, is to be like the thing that was strong against, or I can't remember. There's like, but it's like weird that like they were supposed to be strong against Psychic-type, but then because they were all also Poison-type, it like just didn't work out that way.
Yeah. So another thing about Ghost-type moves is they were relatively weak. Like Lick was a move, and it had an attack power of 20, and then Nightshade only did a set amount of damage proportional to the user's level, i.e. a level 32 Pokemon would do 32 points of damage, which is just not enough.
Yeah.
Another thing Matt mentions, too, is I did goof pretty hard. I said 152nd Pokemon when everyone knows that there's 151, and Mew is the 151st. So I am a ding-dong, is what we're learning.
You did it now.
Yeah, this is just a fun little factoid from Matt, apparently, because he does a lot of retro game hunting in Japan, and the Japanese versions of the first and second gen Pokemon game cartridges are actually gray. Like, all of Gen 1 came in standard gray color. Oh, Silver was a slightly darker gray. Gold came in a bluish black color, and Crystal, Pokemon Crystal, had the same translucent blue color as the American. So that's when it started being matching the American.
Oh.
Because, Pokemon Blue, in America, the cartridge is blue. So, very interesting there. Another thing I didn't mention at all, and it's a shame, is shiny Pokemon.
Oh, that was a big miss on my part, too. I could have brought that up.
Yeah, this was introduced in Gen 2, and there is a 1 in 8,192 chance of encountering one in the wild, and all 807 Pokemon have a shiny variant. Gold and Silver, and Heart Gold and Heart Silver, and Soul Silver, gave players the opportunity to catch a shiny Gyarados, a red one, as part of the game story. So I guess that's a spoiler alert, but there you go. Funny thing that Matt found, too, is that we used IGN for some reference guides for reviews, but there is an infamous meme in apparently IGN review of Pokemon Alpha Sapphire where they gave it a 7.8 out of 10, citing too much water as one of the criticisms of the game. So that's that. Thank you, Matt.
Do you know what game you're playing here?
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt, for jumping in with those. We really appreciate it. I love being told if I do something wrong because I want it to be right. I want to be right so bad. So if you ever hear us say something and you're like, that's not right, email us at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com because we are bound to get something wrong. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yep.
So now, 5th generation. We're into it. 5th generation was actually 2 separate game sets of 2. Pokemon Black and White and the creatively titled Pokemon Black and White 2. or Pokemon Black 2 and Pokemon White 2. So Pokemon Black and White take place in the Unova region. Is it Unova or Unova?
I think it's Unova. Yeah, I think you got it.
So Unova region, and like weirdly enough, you know how all the old games took place in Japan, like regions of Japan, like they'd take that as inspiration? This time, Unova is based on New York City, the Big
Just
Apple
the city?
itself. Just the city, but kind of the region in general, because there's still like parts outside the city. So
Yeah.
a fun thing.
This is the only gen that I have just never touched at all.
Yeah, I've never played Black and White at all. Pokemon Black and White or Pokemon Black and White 2. In fact, pretty much this one and until we get to Sun and Moon, I haven't played any of these. So I was doing a lot of digging to get stuff right. So a cool part about the Unova region, though, is there was diversity for the first time in a Pokemon game. Like, people vary in skin tone, and they have an occupation based on the city they live in. So it's like a port town.
Oh, that's cool.
People are working as longshoremen. I don't know. So I thought it was pretty neat. The starting Pokemon are Snivy, Tepig, or Oshawott, which you get from Professor Juniper. And yes, I know, I didn't know if you guys noticed or not, but all the professors named after trees.
Oak, Elm, Juniper. Who's the one for... I can't remember the ones for Hoenn or...
For Alola?
Sinnoh.
Okay, because Alola is interesting, and I'll get to that later. So just so you know, because people thought it wasn't a tree, and it turns out...
You're an expert on the Alola
It totally
region.
was a tree. Oh, yeah, I am an expert on the Alola region, and we're going to get to that later. So
Yes, can't wait.
you have two different friends in Pokemon Black and White who also serve as your rivals, but they're your friends, which I kind of like, because I think of the original Pokemon, Gary, he's kind of a jerk, and I like it better when they're your friends. And your friend in Pokemon Sun or Moon is also your friend. He's your rival and your friend, and he's great. He's just wonderful, so you got to love him. Okay.
He's
but your
super
two friends
nice to you all the time.
are Sharon and Bianca, and Sharon will always choose a Pokemon with a type advantage against you. So if you pick water, they're picking grass type, okay? And Bianca will always choose the Pokemon with a type disadvantage. So you'll take a water, and she'll be like, I want fire. And then you're like, that's a weird choice, but okay. And then you guys fight, and you beat her, usually.
But then when Bianca fights Sharon, Bianca wins.
That's right. So, it's an equal playing field for everyone. The evil criminal organization you face up against in Pokemon Black and White is titled Team Plasma. And apparently, they're kind of like... It says they're inspired by the Knights Templar. That's what I read on Wikipedia. But this is kind of interesting. So their whole idea is that Pokemon are oppressed by humanity and they need to be freed from their trainers. And Team Plasma is led by N, a young man who was brought up alongside Pokemon and sees them as friends rather than essentially tools that you use to fight in Pokemon matches. And while I haven't played the game, this is the most evil team that seems kind of right,
They're sympathetic. You're like, hey, you know what? You're not entirely wrong on this one.
Yeah, we're getting a real the Institute versus the Railroad situation in Fallout 4. That's what's going on right now. Where I'm like, I don't know, maybe Team Plasma's kind of right. So the new features to Pokemon Black and White, the dialogue boxes of the previous games return into speech balloons. So that way you could kind of get a timing of when characters are speaking, and sometimes two balloons would pop up at once, so you could see them speaking at the same time. Yeah, which is kind of neat. There are different camera angles in battle, so it's not just your classic looking back behind your shoulder kind of deal.
Was it cool animations at play and stuff?
Yeah, they had animated sprites and stuff too.
Neat.
Pokemon Black and White introduced seasons that changed every month rather than being linked to the calendar. So outside areas appeared differently during the season. So you'd see the leaves changing in the fall, and also in wintertime, you could see all the snow on the ground. But the coolest part about the seasons is different Pokemon could be found in different places during the season. So Deerling and Sawsbuck actually were two Pokemon that changed their appearance to match the season. So there was a winter version.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I think it's really cool that they did this. I think it was a good idea. So, two new battle types. You got triple battles, where both teams send out 3 Pokemon in a row at once, and some moves you can only attack the person straight in front of you. You couldn't go diagonal, okay? So there's kind of some strategy to it. And if you wanted to switch, you had to waste a move, essentially, to change positions to take up the position of the Pokemon next to you. That would be a move for you. Yeah. Rotation battles There were battles where there was a circle of Pokemon. So it was kind of like a half circle. So you can like rotate them at will. It wasn't a big deal, and they could you wouldn't have to waste a move. And there's actually more rotation battles in black than triple battles, and there's more triple battles in white than rotation battles. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. Combo moves were a new thing. So your starter Pokemon could be taught one of 3 moves, and using them together in double or triple battles produced more powerful attacks. And in the wild, if you walked through a darker colored tall grass, it could trigger double battles against wild Pokemon. So you could have like a kind of a harder experience against a Pokemon. And I believe they could do these 2 cool moves against you too. I'm not entirely sure on that though. I'm just speculating, but I think that's what's going on. So Matt will correct me, I'm sure. Okay, so this is a game also where the rustling patches of grass and rippling water were introduced. So those appeared in this game for the first time. There were also the little dust clouds in the caves and the shadows on bridges, where if you ran into like a circle that was moving on a bridge, you'd like a flying Pokemon would come and attack you.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and
these are like rare Pokemon or something?
Yeah, and so actually there are some Pokemon that you can only get by being on these bridges, and those are Drillbur, Excadrill, Ducklet, or Swanna, and you can't find them anywhere else in the wild unless you go on those bridges. Pokemon...
Neato.
Yeah, neato indeed. Pokeballs could also be highly effective at random times and trigger a catch. You know how it would like move once and just click and be like, whoa, what did I do? That's just completely random. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it actually shows up in Pokemon Go also sometimes too.
Oh, I've never seen it in Pokemon Go. That's cool.
Yeah, occasionally it'll move once, it'll like move to the side once, and then it'll just click, and then you have it. And it was just like, it's just a random thing. There's no control over it. It's not how you throw the ball. It's just completely random. So another thing that you can do is they took the whole Pokemon contest thing and really upped it up. And now there's Pokemon musicals again.
Are you all in?
Just another game feature I'm probably going to ignore.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, Pokemon musicals, now you got me.
You know what? Unless I want to see Psyduck snap to West Side Story, I think I'm going to pass.
I would definitely watch that. So
yeah,
I'm about to buy me a copy of Black version.
And you're like, there's no West Side Story in this. Okay. The Battle Subway is similar to Battle Towers in Battle Frontiers in previous games. It's just their version of it. Is you go on the subway and trainers are like, hey, we're going to battle now. And that's what you got to deal with. The Royal Unova.
When you're a jet for life.
That's right. You could always do it on the subway. Also, there's a cruise ship called the Royal Unova. And if you can go on that and you can ride it and you can fight trainers and you could win rare items. Ooh. Oh. Yeah, so the big feature with Pokemon Black, though, was the Pokemon Dream World. Doesn't that sound crazy? Ooh.
It sounds super crazy.
Yeah, and so it's actually kind of a global link thing. And the player there, you can like befriend Pokemon that are not normally obtainable in-game, and they also have unique abilities. And this only occurs after syncing the game with the Dream World. Like it's an online service is how I would put it. It's kind of similar to the Pokewalker from Heart Gold and Heart and Soul Silver, and you can actually have a house in the Dream World, and other players can visit you. You can grow berries in the Dream World. In addition to allowing access to Pokemon acquired in the Dream World, the Entralink is a thing that also enables players to interact with each other, and you can play fun side games.
Neat.
And the side games actually would award you stuff that you could use to trade in for like powers or like experience boost or improving catch rate or lowering prices in items in like shops and the Pokemarts and stuff like that. So kind of had some cool features to it. Another thing that was added to Pokemon Black and White 2 was the Sea Gear. So the Sea Gear is the thing that controls all of the wireless capabilities in Black and White 2. So it's very important. And I should say Black and White and Black and White 2. It's kind of hard to say. You know, I keep fumbling it, but I'm going for it. So the Sea Gear had infrared communication for battling and trading. It had wireless communication. It had video chat. What? Yeah, it says video chat access to the Entralink to transfer content from the Pokemon Dream World using the Wi-Fi to sync with the Pokemon Global Link servers. This is probably all gone now, just so everyone knows that. I'm pretty sure these servers...
Is. All of the online stuff is definitely gone.
Yeah, they no longer exist. There was something called pass-by mode where it allowed players to communicate with each other through infrared while the DS was asleep in your pocket or something. Because they've always kind of had that with Nintendo DS, like a feature where you would walk around and it would kind of stay awake for you, and do stuff. So this was like the first
I used to do that with The World Ends With You and get sweet pins for that game.
Oh, yeah. So this one was survey questions, and you would receive items for doing survey questions and stuff on the go. The feeling check function tests the compatibility between two players, and that would award you items based on those survey answers. It would do the feeling check, and then you'd get stuff. There's also a random matchup feature that would let you do random battles, and then the Wonder Launcher, which allowed you to have healing items in those battles. It was kind of like an extra.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So many features.
So we're going to go to the development of the game and of Black and White 1, and a big thing about this is Junichi Masuda, who's our hero, and he definitely was the composer on those games, and he got brought up to game director, so I think he deserves at least one high five from every Pokemon fan. That's how I feel about it. But his big stand with Pokemon Black and White was no old Pokemon. That was his thing.
At all?
At all. And so Masuda...
You can't even get them in the game in any way?
Well, you can get them using that Dream World later. So that was the thing.
Okay.
But Masuda stated that he did this so old players would not be able to know what is good and bad to use in battle. He wouldn't want people to know what good Pokemon were. And it would also level the playing ground for new players. So he wanted people to just jump into the series and be like, okay, we're all on the same level playing field. So that seems to make sense. Okay.
Yeah, I tend to like that. When I played like X and Y kind of did that. And I think Sun and Moon also do that, where you really only run into the newer Pokemon. I like that because for the same reason I don't like it, where it's like it kind of forces me to learn what these other Pokemon are. But then I'm like, it's too many Pokemon. I just want to use the ones that I know are good. And then so that's what drops me off of newer Pokemon games.
Yeah, you want to use the ones that you know and enjoy, but also you're like, well, I need to do something new here. I think we go through the same thing with Destiny.
Yeah,
where you're
I
like,
want new stuff, but could it please just be exactly the same as the old stuff? But like not exactly the same. Please don't do the same thing.
Yeah, I think this is the conundrum that game designers are dealing with literally every day, and it's the worst. And I am so sorry. So, I should mention too, Junichi Masuda also worked on the music of this one, along with Go Ichinose, and there's actually so many people listed on here for who did the music. So I'm just gonna say there's a ton of music. Okay. I just thought it was cool that Masuda ended up working on it with all those people. I thought that was neat that he's a game director, but he's still a composer at heart. Okay. So
that's great.
Pokemon Black and White were released in Japan on September 18th, 2010, Europe on March 4th, 2011, and North America on March 6th, 2011, and Australia on March 10th, 2011. So you want to hear what's crazy about this? Is North America was third to get the release when they're usually second. Europe beat us. Isn't that interesting?
Only by a couple of days.
That's true. Only a couple of days. So, critically, it holds an 87% on Metacritic. And
that's really good.
It is really good. And sales-wise...
What's its IGN score?
I didn't look it up. I stopped using IGN scores. Yeah, too much dreaming. Too much black or white. We kind of wanted more colors in between. Okay. So, sales-wise, 1 month before the game's release in Japan, Pokemon Black and White had a total of 1.08 million pre-orders.
Wow.
Yeah, it became the fastest game on the Nintendo DS to break the 1 million mark. In the first 2 days on sale, it sold 2.6 million copies, becoming the biggest launch in the series' history in Japan. And by November 3rd, the game had sold more than 4.3 million copies in Japan. And as of January 9th, 2011, the games became the fastest DS title to sell 5 million copies. So
that's nuts. In Japan?
In Japan. So here's me kind of speculating about Black and White. And I think the legacy of this that we need to go back to is this was the first time I think there was a lot about the hype machine of this game. They really, really pushed it. When I was reading the history of the marketing and stuff, which I felt would get kind of boring, so I'm kind of going to sum it up here. There were so many leaks. Like, how many were intentional? We don't know. How many were on purpose, or how many were like legitimate leaks? I think they just did it to really get that hype machine going. And a cool throwback they did do is in the March 2010 issue of the RoccoW comic, available on February 15th. And it was the start of the 5th generation of the Pokemon franchise. So that was them being like, hey, they're doing it in the RoccoW comic to like announce the whole thing. And if you recall, to get the special Pokemon Blue copy of the 1st generation, you had to get the RoccoW comic.
Oh, so it's like a little bit of a throwback there.
Yeah, like a throwback. I thought that was pretty neat. So yeah, Black and White was an amazing game. Okay. But then Pokemon Black and White 2. Here we go. So this is a direct sequel that takes place 2 years after the events of the first game. And
I wonder why they decided to do it for this one, and none of the other Pokemon games have had like direct sequels except Black and White 2. I wonder. Anyway, I guess you can talk about it, and we can discuss if that was successful or not.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of weird because it makes it so then this is all one generation, you know?
Yeah.
So the game starts with you exploring the western side of Unova, and the western side's a little more rural. Okay. And once again,
can you take your same team from the first game, or do you start over?
I think you start over. Yeah, which is kind of interesting. Like, why would they make that choice? I was trying to find like anything that said that, and I couldn't find that. Maybe people that have played this game will actually know, but nothing I read said you could take your team over, which I thought, well, what was the point of all that last game? So once again, you go up against Team Plasma, and you still collect gym badges because this is a Pokemon game. You got to get gym badges, all right? Until the last generation I talk about. Ooh, excitement. Okay,
can't wait.
So the cool part about this game is there's 300 total Pokemon to catch, and a lot of those previously uncatchable Pokemon came back, like Psyduck or Mareep or Growlithe or Riolu. You know, the ones you love. They are back. You're hanging out. So there is a new game mechanic in Pokemon Black and White 2, and that game mechanic is called PokeStar Studios. And there you would help produce a movie with actors and Pokemon. And once again, I think I'm going to skip this part.
Psyduck snapping in West Side Story. This is your chance, Mike. You can make it yourself.
I can finally be a Pokemon director. But this is Psyduck snapping in the movie version of West Side Story, obviously.
Right.
So much CGI. Okay. So the one feature I would play in Black and White 2 that got me really excited was there was this feature called Pokemon World Tournament. And in Pokemon World Tournament, you got to battle trainers from the previous games. So I'm talking like old gym leaders. Like Brock, Misty, Volkner, and Giovanni are all in it.
Nice.
Isn't that so cool? And so
I recognize all those names.
Yeah, you got to love it. So this, like Black and White 2, it came out in Japan on June 23rd, 2012, October 7th, 2012 in North America, in Australia, October 11th, 2012, and October 12th, 2012 again for Europe. So there we go. Again. I don't know why I said again. It's actually a different date. I don't know what I'm doing. It's late. I'm tired. I'm going for it, though. We're doing it. Okay, so this one, its Metacritic score was an 80. Oh, no.
Ooh.
Which is still good. Still good. Okay.
But still good.
Yeah, and as of January 2013, Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 have sold a combined 7.81 million copies worldwide. So, like, it's still a successful game, you know? So, but it's still part of the 5th generation because, like, it's just a direct sequel. I kind of wanted to find out more about why they did this, and I couldn't really find the reasoning why they did it this way. Because this is the only time they've ever done it this way. They've ever done a direct sequel.
I wonder if they consider it to have not been as successful as they'd like, and that's why they didn't do it again. Although, they kind of do it with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Anyway, we'll talk. We'll get to there.
Yeah, we'll get there. So, okay, now on to the 6th generation, Pokemon X and Y. And Pokemon X and Y is the first game, you ready? To feature full 3D graphics in black and white. You know, in black and white, you were like a little character sprite and the world was 3D. Now your character is fully rendered in 3D.
I did play Pokemon X version. I didn't finish it, but I really enjoyed as far as I got into it.
Well, here's the thing about you being 3D now, Tyler, is you can make your guy's appearance look like you or not like you, however you want. You can choose your gender, you can choose your skin tone, you can choose your hair color, and then you can get outfits, because who doesn't want outfits? You know,
I want outfits. Yes, please.
I want all of the outfits. I want to wear my leather jacket and then produce the Pokemon musical version of Grease. Okay, you know what? I'm sold on the musical idea. I'm into it. I'm into the Pokemon musical idea. That got it for me. Okay, so the game now takes place in the Kalos region. And Kalos is heavily inspired by France and to a lesser extent like Europe as a whole. I thought this was really cool. So, and there are locations and landmarks in Kalos that have real world counterparts. So there's something called the Prism Tower in Kalos. That's pretty much the Eiffel Tower. The Lumios Art Museum is the Louvre. And then the stones near Geosenge Town are essentially the Karnak stones, which are in Europe. So I thought it was really cool that they're kind of breaking away from different regions of Japan and going around the world.
That's neat.
Yeah, the starter Pokemon this time are Chespin, Finnegan, and Froakie, which is pretty great. Froakie is just fun to say. I mean,
yeah,
let's face it, that's just amazing. The legendary trio is Xerneas, Veltal, it's got a Y in front of it, and
Yveltal,
and Zygarde.
Yeah, I don't know.
And these three legendaries are actually based on Norse mythology. I don't know why I said North. Norse mythology.
I mean, it's also North.
I guess that's true. So, I never played X and Y, but one cool feature in this game, and this is kind of a spoilers if you haven't played the game before and you're a big Pokemon fan like me. In fact, I read it and I was like, well, that's a spoiler for me, but I'm still going to probably play the game anyway. Is you get to a certain point in X and Y where you get to choose a classic starter from Pokemon Red and Blue.
Yeah. It's not very far into the game. It's not a huge spoiler.
Okay, good.
It's a few hours in, yeah.
Did you get another fire type? Is that what you did?
Yes, I got another I got a Charmander. I chose Fennekin because I think Fennekin is pretty sure he's the fire type. Now I'm going to look it up. Fennekin, because he's like a little foxy fox thing.
Oh, yeah, he's pretty adorable. I remember seeing
Fennekin. And then I got a Charmander as well.
I should mention, I usually always go water type, but in the last Pokemon game I played, which is Pokemon Ultra Moon, I am 100% all in on that Rowlet because he's so adorable. Little grass owl. Real into that. Okay, so.
He's very cute.
He is very cute. Most of the Pokemon, I would say, are really cute. Although my favorite meme online is the picture where it's like, falling asleep, snuggling with your Pikachu, cute. Falling asleep, snuggling with your Machamp, weird. It looks like a man. It's weird. All right. The new fairy type is introduced for both new and old Pokemon, and this is there to balance out dragon type, essentially. That's why that was added. Another new big
because
feature.
The only thing dragon was weak to was dragon. Oh, and ice type, I guess.
Yeah, you gotta go with dragon versus dragon, because isn't Ghost also weak against Ghost?
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Load up on Ice Beam when I get to Lance in the Elite Four, the original, just firing Ice Beams and Blizzards all day long.
Just Ice Beams and Blizzards all day, every day. Okay. So the big feature of Pokemon X and Y was Mega Evolution. And Mega Evolution takes fully evolved Pokemon that you know and love, like, say, your Mewtwo's or your Lucarios, and then you use an item called a Mega Stone, and it temporarily evolves that Pokemon further into a Mega Evolved form that you can use during battle. Sounds very dramatic. And because it happens during battle
it is
only.
very dramatic.
So
yeah. And only one time per battle. Well, one, because you have a bunch of Pokemon that can Mega Evolve.
Oh, yeah.
But you can only do it to one of them in a battle.
And I also heard there's also a couple of Pokemon that have more than one Mega form.
Yeah, I think Charizard has a different one based on if he's in X or Y version. And they're like actually very different.
I like that. I like that you're switching it up. They're switching it up. Another thing that was introduced, Sky Battles, where your trainers are midair. And only flying Pokemon can participate in these, obviously, because, Squirtle doesn't fly. Okay.
Time to bust out the Charizard.
That's right. But they were really, people kind of, and this is speculation, I think, but they were brought in because now you can really show off a 3D game. If you're fighting in midair, you can show off.
Oh, yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Another thing that was added was Horde encounters, and the Horde encounter is a 1 versus 5 wild Pokemon encounter. So you would go up against 5 wild Pokemon, and it was kind of to make it more difficult than your standard 1v1 wild Pokemon battle, where usually you have the Pokemon and then you just run away. That's what I do. So, okay.
And you're very underleveled, and the Elite Four are very tough.
Yes, that's true. I am very underleveled actually in Ultra Moon. I'm pretty much at the point now where I have to fight the Elite Four, and I'm like, I got to do some power leveling. Okay. Pokemon Ami. That's just fun to say also.
Pokemon Ami.
Pokemon Ami lets players interact with their Pokemon using the 3DS touchscreen and camera, and this lets you like play with them and give them treats and stuff, so you can really get a bond going. You know?
They're so cute.
Yeah, this is how you could bond with your
even your ferocious Pokemon.
Your ferocious what?
Your ferocious Pokemon are cute also.
That's true. They all love you, and they're all cute. And it ultimately actually affects the way your Pokemon will fight during a battle. So it's kind of worth doing.
Because you have the super training thing where they can train on like punching bags and stuff, and they get stronger. It's like EV training your Pokemon without having to do the tedious fighting of specific Pokemon.
Yeah, I like it. I think this is way better than doing that and just having a minigame. In fact, it seems like more of a minigame than Pokemon musicals. Yeah, that's right. I'm off the wagon again. Look at this. Jumping on and off that Pokemon musical wagon.
This is a minigame that is actually useful for you to do.
Yes, because it actually makes your Pokemon stronger. So, what was introduced connectivity-wise in X and Y? Well, there was something called a player search system, and this way you could keep track of like various online players. You can kind of have a friends list, you know, is how I look at this. And then you could use that to easily battle them or trade with them. The Holocaster allowed players to receive messages and updates from NPCs via Street Pass and Spot Pass, which was a big thing with the Nintendo, because this game's on 3DS, so it's very...
Yeah, so you can take advantage of all that stuff.
And Wonder Trade was introduced. This is a new trading feature, which allows...
I love Wonder Trading.
Yeah, it allows you to like trade one Pokemon exchange from another, like just randomly. So, for example, I would give Tyler a Rattata, and then he would give me a Pidgey, because no one ever trades valuable Pokemon in Wonder Trade.
It's all just Magikarps. Or if you do get a valuable Pokemon, you have to worry about it being like a hacked version of a Pokemon.
Yes, and I actually did send out something. I didn't even send out something bad. It was actually like one, like a region specific, like to the map. So I thought, oh, I'm actually doing some good. Like this, maybe someone would need this. And then I got a hacked Deoxys from a previous game.
You know what? There's plausible deniability there. You didn't hack it. You don't know for sure.
It's just level 100, so I don't think it's real. O powers were introduced, and these are temporary powers that can increase stats, and then they can be exchanged with other players, so that's kind of cool. And also when trading, you can now request a Pokemon you don't have. So I could describe it as Pokemon missed connections. Isn't that nice? So you can get a Pokemon. And actually in the new games too, you can also go to a special list where you're like, hey, I have this to trade. I need this. And they'll try to like match you up with someone. All right. One new feature that is introduced with X and Y, and this is still used today, so I thought it was very important to talk about this, is Pokemon Bank. Pokemon Bank is a paid cloud storage service that allows players to store up to 3,000 Pokemon online to be shared amongst whichever physical or downloaded copies of games you own. So
that sounds super worth it.
Yeah, there's another application called Poké Transporter, which allows players to upload Pokemon owned in Pokemon Black and White or Black and White 2 to the bank, and then you can take those and import them to X and Y. Another cool feature that I didn't write down here is they actually made it so that you could connect even farther back by if you got digital versions of Pokemon Red and Blue. Or digital, you can like if you download them from the Nintendo Store onto your 3DS. I think they call them Virtual Console. I think that's what that's called. You can then upload those to Pokemon Bank. So if you wanted to get your awesome Blastoise into your Pokemon X game, you could do that. So if
you could finally move a Pokemon from the OG Pokemon Red and Blue all the way into the new Pokemon games. That's awesome.
That's right. And I think it's kind of, I mean, if you are a huge Pokemon fan, then you might be interested in Pokemon Bank. I don't know. I don't play the games enough to be interested in it, but I think it's pretty cool. You know, I think it's cool that it's out there. So, hey, Tyler, if you wanted to know, do you think in this game there's a criminal organization that's terrorizing the region? Do you think that exists? No,
probably not, because we took them all out in all the other Pokemon games. This one's just a peaceful Pokemon game where you just go get your gym badges, right?
Oh, Tyler. Oh, naive young Tyler. There is. It's Team Flare.
Oh, dang it.
And I like to think they do things with style. So that's the name of the team in this. The other good thing, though, Tyler, is while you have to face this evil organization, you have a lot more friends in X and Y.
That's good.
That's way more friends than any of the other games.
And they give you a cool nickname at the start when you like, because you name your character, and then one of the guys is like, I'm not going to call you that. I'm going to call you this nickname, and you get to like pick. And so they were calling me T-Meister instead of Tyler.
That's so awesome. And you know what? You remember that to this day, and that's clearly a bond that lasted forever.
I do remember it. I remember all my homies calling me T-Meister.
Development-wise, Junichi Masuda focused on 3 things: beauty, bonds, and evolution. So the beauty thing came from the development team taking a little trip to France in 2010 to get a feel for what they wanted the game to look like. They actually went there. They actually traveled and looked around the region to get like inspiration.
Nice. Free trip to France.
Yeah, it's very pretty there. And since the game had 3D polygons versus sprites this time, they don't have sprites anymore. The dev team for Pokemon X and Y was actually over 500 people.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Ken Sugimori designed the legendary Pokemon box art along with Yusuke Omura to create the Xerneas and Yveltal as well. Yveltal? I don't know how you say it. But it took them 18 months to finish the box art.
Dang.
Yeah. Also, there was a famous manga artist named Hitoshi Ariga, and he designed 10 species for Pokemon X and Y. It's like a fun little fact for all our manga. Is it manga or manga?
Manga. I think it's manga.
I think it's manga. All our manga fans out there asking how I pronounce it. That's fun. Okay. Junichi Masuda, our hero, actually returned to compose the battle music of X and Y. So he just did the battle music while being the director of the game. That's
My man.
It's pretty cool. And some of the music was inspired by like French music, but it still had like a Pokemon feel to it. I think they described it as using like... Oh, wait, no, that's the next game. I'm getting it confused. I'm going off book. Here we go. Okay. So, Pokemon X and Y was released worldwide on October 12, 2013. And then some stores in the UK and Brazil actually got in trouble because they released it on October 11th.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they're going to go to Pokemon jail. That's the other new app.
They made a mistake.
They have Pokemon Bank, and then they have Pokemon Jail, where they put people in jail for selling Pokemon too early. Actually, they just got they were pretty much just like, hey, because they were all different retailers, so they could send them letters and be like, we heard you did this early. If you do this again, we're never letting you sell Pokemon games. And they're like, oh no, I'm so sorry. Okay, so sales-wise, over 1.26 million copies of Pokemon X and Y were pre-ordered in Japan. That's more than Pokemon Black and White 2, just so everyone realizes it, okay? And over 4 million copies of the games were sold worldwide in the first weekend, making X and Y the fastest-selling game on the 3DS.
Dang, Pokemon just breaking records every time it comes out. Do you think they're going to do that on the Switch? When it comes out on the Switch in November, do you think it's going to break all the records?
Oh, I'm sure it will. It'll break all of the records.
All
of them.
Okay. I'm going to buy it.
I'm going to buy it, too. Which one are you going to get?
I'm going to get Sword, I think, because my little brother's getting Shield version.
Then I will get Shield also.
Okay.
So we can trade. That'll be good.
So we can do some sweet trades.
We can do some sweet trades. Okay. So, Pokemon X holds an 87% and Pokemon Y holds an 88% on Metacritic. So that's where they're at.
That's interesting that they have different scores, considering they're basically the same game.
Yeah, so if you can't choose, though, pick Y, because it has that 1% more, I guess, is what I would say.
That's the deal breaker, I guess.
Okay, but this game, X and Y, is pretty big, because this is the modern generation we're talking about. You know what I mean? We're here now with 3D. We're in full 3D. This was the first one. And now, to get more into this, we got to talk about 2 remakes. You ready? Pokemon Omega Ruby and Pokemon Alpha Sapphire.
Oh, I have Alpha Sapphire, and I still have yet to start it up, and I feel really terrible about it.
It's okay. Don't feel terrible. Everyone forgives you that's listening to the podcast right now. Okay.
Thanks,
Omega
listeners.
Ruby and Alpha Sapphire retain almost every single feature from X and Y, such as Mega Evolution and Super Training, but the games just introduced new features like the Primal Reversion for Groudon and Kyogre, which I don't know what that means, but that was what it said. And I'm like, well, someone will know what I'm talking about. Also, as well as Latios and Latias, they fly around the Hoenn region now.
Oh, yeah. You should mention these are remakes of Ruby and Sapphire.
Oh, yeah. They're remakes of Ruby and Sapphire. So that's cool because they're essentially fully upgraded versions of Ruby and Sapphire with the addition of these X and Y things that just make it better, you know?
That's awesome.
And the plot.
I love when they remake games like that.
Yeah, the plot's the same. It's just everything's revamped, which I think is a solid choice. And once this is kind of big too, because the game was released. Oh, did I say that? I don't think I said it. I think I missed it. Okay, so X and Y was released worldwide on October 12th and 13th, and October 12th, 2013. Did I say that? That's kind of big because that's the first worldwide release.
Oh, all on the same day?
Yeah, all on the same day. The other cool thing is so that would make Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire the second worldwide release on November 21st, 2014, except for Europe, because they got the game a week later on the 28th.
That's weird. I wonder why.
I don't know why either. Metacritic has the Omega Ruby version as an 83, while the Alpha Sapphire version is an 82. So that's just... I mean, they're the same game. Not a big deal. Okay. I don't know why it's a 1% difference. The games actually sold 3,040,000 copies in the first 3 days on sale. So of the total sales, 1,534,593 copies were sold in Japan, and the rest were sold in North America and Australia. Because as I said, the Europe came out a week later. So now we're into it. Pokemon Sun and Moon. Here we go. The seventh generation. These are the most
recent ones, right?
Yeah, these are the seventh generation. Pokemon Sun and Moon take place in the Alolan region of the Pokemon world, which is just Hawaii. It's Hawaii. If you didn't know, it's just straight up Hawaii. It's like they took Hawaii and they just put it into a Game Boy. That's what they did. And by Game Boy, I mean a DS. So people say Alola instead of Aloha in the game, so it really is just Hawaii. But they did it for a reason, which I'm going to get to later on. The starters are Rowlet, Litten, and Poplio. I picked Rowlet because it's an adorable grass owl, but I also have a Poplio, and it's very adorable as well. You get these from Professor Kukui, and Kukui, by the way, is the candlenut tree related to Hawaii. It's the native to Hawaii, so guess what, professors? Still named after trees. No one be alarmed, okay? Just because you didn't know.
I'm glad they kept up that tradition. I was really worried.
Just because you know Kukui wasn't a tree, that's on you. Okay, it's not on Pokemon.
That's true. That's my ignorance.
They're trying to educate you and make you into an arbalist, which is wonderful. Okay, so the coolest thing about Sun and Moon is they, to me, and this is definitely an opinion, they completely ditch the idea of conventional gym battles in this, and instead you do something called a Pokemon trial. And Pokemon trials do not always end up with you battling a gym leader by battling trainers. Instead, you battle a special Pokemon at the end called a totem Pokemon, but before that you do like a different variety of things, whether it's like solving a puzzle, or I know there's a puzzle and the electric in the observatory where you have to like do a puzzle involving electric currents and flipping switches, and then you face the totem Pokemon. And after you beat the totem Pokemon, you get the badge from the trainer. And then, if you collect enough totem stickers, which are these little gold stickers found out throughout the world, you you buy the totem Pokemon with the stickers. Which is, well, I guess you actually earn it. Because, that's the best part about this game. There's a Professor Oak, but it's the Pokemon Red and Blue's Professor Oak's cousin, and he's like the exact same face, but he's got long flowing hair, and he wears board shorts and Hawaiian shirt, and he's just like a surfer
he's
version.
He's like Professor Oak retired to Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. And he's the one that's like, oh, you have 20 totem stickers, here's this Pokemon. Oh, you have 40, here's this Pokemon. It's great. It's amazing. It's like, oh, Surfer Oak's here. Cool guy, Surfer Oak. So, fun fact about Sun and Moon. It's the first entry in the series to be available in Chinese, both simplified and traditional. And
that's very interesting. Like you would think that they would have. I guess consoles have only recently been sort of allowed in China, but it's just interesting to think that they never made a Chinese version.
Yeah, and there's also an English version, French, Spanish, Italian, German, Japanese, and Korean for a total of 9 playable languages.
Very nice.
Very neat. Alolan region variants were added, and Alolan variants are like slightly different looking, but they also change the type. So Alolan Vulpix and Ninetales, which are fire type in blue and red, are ice type and fairy type.
Whoa, that's a big change for Vulpix, because those are like exact opposites.
Yeah, and Sandshrew and Sandslash, which were ground type in the other regions, are ice and steel type in this region, which is really cool. You have a Pokedex, but it is possessed by a terrifying Pokemon called Rotom. So it's a Rotodex is what they call it. And it's really scary when you think about it, because this ghost is in your Pokedex and it's just talking to you. And it's like totally like becoming a human. It's really scary when you think about it. But it asks you questions like, how are you feeling? Da, 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 da. You ready to face the Elite Four? And you're like, yes. And it's like, awesome. And it's like, this is kind of terrifying, but I'm just going to roll with it. So you just keep going with this creepy ghost as your Pokedex. The big, their version of the Mega Evolution was the Z move, is what is in Pokemon Sun and Moon. A Z move is you get a Z crystal. Usually it's after you beat a trial, but it's also found in like various other areas of the plot. You'll get a Z crystal. And a Z move is a powerful move that's for a certain type. So there's like Fairyum Z is a powerful fairy move. So you can use it once a battle. And it's funny because if you use it against the right type, it just like completely demolishes that type. But if you use it against the wrong type, you just feel like a dummy because it takes like half their health bar away. And you're like, well, we're still here. And it was a lot of build up for nothing.
What have I even done here?
Yeah, what have
I like a big animation that plays and stuff, like a summon from a Final Fantasy game.
Oh, another thing I didn't write down in here too is there's ride Pokemon in Alola. So I'm gonna try to name the ride Pokemon off the top of my head. There's a Tauros that you can use to smash rocks. There is I don't even know the name of it, but it's like a furry fuzzy dog thing. A Houndish, I think is what it's called, or something, that you can ride it and it can sniff out items for you. There's a Charizard used to fly between islands. There's a Lapras used to go on water. There is the weirdest choice in the world. It's a Machamp that pushes big stones for you. But the weirdest part about this Machamp is in 2 of its arms, it's pushing stones, and in the other 2 arms, it's holding you like a baby.
A baby.
And that's how you ride it. And it's so weird when you think about it. But it's just part of the game. You're like, all right, I guess it's a ride Pokemon. So there's another thing in this game called the Pokefinder. And that's a game mode where it allows players to take Pokemon, take photos of Pokemon in the wild. There's a lot like Pokemon Snap, which is kind of a fun little addition, because Pokemon Snap is an amazing game, which I will talk about next episode, because holy buckets, such a
lot of Pokemon.
Formative part of my childhood, Pokemon Snap. Okay. In addition to those things, there are 2 clocks set 12 hours apart from each other based on what game you're playing. So in Pokemon Sun, if you're playing at night, it's daytime. And if you're playing in the daytime during Pokemon Moon, it's nighttime. It's always the opposite. Yeah, it's always the opposite of what's going on. So, in fact, it's kind of weird because if you're playing like, for me, I'm playing Ultra Moon like late at night in my bed, and it's like daytime in the game. You're like, this is the only time it's daytime in the game. It's when I'm like about to go to sleep. Another thing that was added to the game was the Pokemon Refresh feature, which allows you to care for your Pokemon. You can like pet them and they go like or whatever, and they make fun noises, and you can
like
feed
Pokemon on me.
Yeah, and you feed them berries, and they really love you. And I actually really like the feeling I get when I feed them berries. You know, it makes me feel good, like I'm doing something and helping these imaginary electronic animals. Okay, it's enough about my own feelings. The Battle Tree is a location which allows players to battle or team up with Pokemon trainers, including Kanto region trainers from Red and Blue. That's really cool. The Festival Plaza, this is something that you can participate in, and it's kind of weird. It actually really confused me when I started playing the game. But essentially you load in, and I believe his name is Hermes. No, it's not. What's his name? Hieronymus is his name. And he's like one of the trainers, one of the trial people you face off against, and he has this area that he's collected that trainers just kind of zap in. These are real players, but they're like ghost avatars of your friends and random players.
So it's like the computer plays for them, but it's their Pokemon.
Yeah, and they'll like ask you questions.
That's cool.
They'll ask you questions like, "Hey, I'm looking for a place to buy Pokemon berries," and then you go, "Oh, well, you should go to this place," and they'll be like, "Okay, cool." And if you give them the right answer, you'll get these points that you can then use to buy stuff, which is kind of cool. So I haven't quite figured it out. It's also kind of hard too because I feel like not as many people are playing Pokemon, so it doesn't really pop up as often. But apparently, if you are able to, I don't want to say cheese this area, but I mean, take advantage of this area in the right way, you can make it so you have really powerful stuff in Pokemon Sun or Moon. Like the Festival Plaza is actually kind of important. It's not something you should ignore. The Poképelago is the other thing that you shouldn't ignore, and it's like an island spa for your Pokemon. There's 4 different islands. There's an island where you can collect berries, which is the currency, and then there's a cave that Pokemon can find treasure in, and there's a day spa where they can like relax and get stat boosts, and then there's a training area where they can relax, or not relax, but train and get like level ups or stat boosts. So cool. Poképelago is pretty cool. Pokemon Bank still works on Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon, because it's still very much a thing. And actually, so I kind of goofed in telling you guys that Red and Blue Virtual Console versions are able to do that because it actually wasn't available in X and Y. That became a Pokemon Bank was able to get Virtual Console versions of Pokemon on February 26, 2016.
Oh, because Red and Blue didn't come out on 3DS until around the same time as Sun and Moon, right?
Yeah, I guess I kind of goofed the timeline there, but they are available now. If you went on there now, you could do it. The criminal organization is Team Skull, which I can only describe as a bunch of wannabe gangster guys, I guess. I don't know. They're like oh, they have a lot of arm movements. They're like, yeah, we're gonna come get you, and then they just lose.
Snap.
Yeah,
is this all part of West Side Story Psyduck Edition, right?
Yeah, if you didn't know, actually, the whole game is in Psyduck's mind, and it's just West Side Story. It's like the show Dallas. Another evil Oh, what was it?
Oh, there's another show that all took place inside a hospital.
Oh, yeah.
It was all in a kid's mind. I can't remember the name of the hospital, but St. Elsewhere. That's what it's called.
Yeah. Maybe not Dallas then. Maybe Dallas wasn't it. Or was it Dallas? Maybe I'm thinking of St. Elsewhere. You know what? Not important to a Pokemon
There was a whole
history.
season of Bob Newhart's show that was a dream.
That's so confusing. Okay. Another evil company, though, was the Aether Foundation, or Aether Foundation, Aether. Pronunciation points, please. And they are trying to find Ultra Beasts. And these are legendary Pokemon that live through these wormholes in different dimensions. And you can actually travel through the wormholes at some point, and you can discover the new legendaries. And it's really cool. Like, it's really fun. And it kind of reminds me of the ring levels in Sonic, where you'd be, like, running around the tube. You know?
Oh, yeah.
It's really neat. And Pokemon, Professor Oak, oh yeah, here it is. Professor Oak doesn't appear in Sun and Moon, but it's definitely Surfer Oak is how I describe him. So I just meant that. I put that note there instead of already saying it. But the wormhole thing is really cool, and you can find a lot of Pokemon from other games that way.
That's cool.
Yeah, so they use the wormhole thing to do that. Development in Sun and Moon happened right after Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Shigeru Omori was the game's director, so I want to say here, I miss you, Shinichi Masuda, although he does make the music again in this game, which is really cool. So he just like stepped down as director. I think he actually is called like an executive producer on the show now.
Oh yeah,
on
he's
the
like
show,
he's
on
a
the
big
movie, or the game.
He's still a big part of the game.
Yeah, I don't know why I said show, movie, and then game. I am doing a video game podcast. I'm having a really rough go of it this episode. Apologies.
It's
listeners.
late.
It's late. I'm trying so hard. So he does the music. The director, though, Shigeru Omori, said that the choice of Sun and Moon, and this is how we go to why they chose Hawaii, was inspired by 2 celestial bodies' metaphorical representation of human relationships, like how the sun and the moon relate to each other. And Hawaii was chosen because that region has very clear nights and very plentiful sunshine. So that's why they chose that area of the world to do Pokemon Sun and Moon. When asked about how he designed the new Pokemon for the generation, Omori said, "We wanted to have a lot of special surprises, and we wanted to have a funny element. And you know what? Some of the Pokemon are goofy. Like, look at the Executor, like the Alolan version of Executor. It's just like a super tall palm tree. It's ridiculous. It's great."
I'm Googling it right now.
You seeing it? Yeah, it's so ridiculous looking. Jangmo-o was the first Pokemon designed for Sun and Moon. He's kind of like a four-legged dragon that turns into a bigger dragon. The Alolan variations were only for Pokemon from Red and Blue because they wanted it to be like a surprise for original fans. I think that's a really great idea.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really sweet. They're treating us that way, which is nice. As previously stated, Junichi Masuda, who was now the producer, did the music for Sun and Moon, and he said they were based off of traditional Hawaiian music styles for the rhythms, but the music was utilized completely differently for the melodies to keep it like very much a Pokemon game, but very much a tropical island feel to the Pokemon music.
Mm-hmm.
The game's team had around 120 people in it, and it took about 3 years to develop. And Sun and Moon was released worldwide once again on November 18, 2016. And in Europe, they had to wait 5 days and have it come out on November 23rd, 2016. Don't know why. I think it has to do with like maybe a European Union thing, you know?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just speculating off of that. March 31st, 2019, Sun and Moon, by that date, Sun and Moon had sold 16.15 million copies, ranking them the third best-selling Nintendo 3DS title behind Mario Kart 7 and guess what? Pokemon X and Y. That's right.
Okay.
Pokemon,
So not quite as good as selling as Pokemon X and Y, but still way up there.
Still way up there. The game has a score of 87 out of 100 on Metacritic. Now, Tyler, we've hit a point, an impasse. Because you know how I said I was going to talk about 8 generations of Pokemon?
Mm-hmm.
The 8th generation's still going.
Yeah, well, it hasn't really started yet, right? Because the new games are technically when the new 8th generation of Pokemon come out, right? Unless you're talking about Ultra Sun and Moon. Are those still generation?
That's still technically the 7th generation, I would think. Right?
Yeah, I would think so too. Because there's no new Pokemon, right?
No, they're the same.
I feel like once there's a new drop of like 100 plus Pokemon, that's when it's a new generation.
Exactly. So this part is going to stop here for tonight. And then I am going to talk next week about your side Pokemon games. I'm talking about Mystery Dungeon. I'm talking Pokemon Snap. I'm talking Pokemon Go. I'm talking about Detective Pikachu. You know, I'm getting into those side games. Pokemon Pinball. How do you feel about that? Well, there was one. Psyduck's West Side Story Adventure. I just made that one up. I don't even care. That's how
we're developing it this weekend so that we can talk about it next week.
It is in development. It's also going to go. It's going to coincide with the release of Jaybird Tournament Edition. So that's how it's going to go.
Yes, can't wait.
So next week I will be talking about those side Pokemon games. Tyler, what you been playing?
Well, I finally picked up World of Final Fantasy again this weekend because I was out doing some family stuff, so I had some downtime, and so I played a little bit of World of Final Fantasy. Got a little further in there, played a couple of chapters. On my Switch, of course, and I watched my little brother play a chunk of Final Fantasy 12 on his Switch, so that was good. Lots of Final Fantasy in my family this weekend, but other than that, I haven't really been playing anything because I've been traveling, so I read a lot of comics again.
Nice. I was trying to think of a Final Fantasy thing, but it didn't work out very well. I was really going for it.
It was a good try, though.
Thank you. You know, I'm all about giving it my all this podcast. So I played a lot of that. I've Destiny had a new expansion come out, everyone, a Season of Violence. And to be honest, I haven't played a lot of it because I've been waiting for my dear friend Tyler. You know?
I plan to play tomorrow.
Yeah, you can catch up to me tomorrow because I did all the menagerie missions to get to that. So we can play tomorrow night and be all caught up. Other than that, games I've been playing I picked up Skyrim a little bit again. I've been playing a lot of Apex again because they had an update and it actually seems way more playable on my Xbox right now. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun. And other than that, it's just been a really great time.
Oh, and it's E3 week, so there's going to be all kinds of new game announcements. Can't wait.
Yeah, they announced already that there's going to be
Xbox had their thing already.
Oh, there's going to be because Halo 6 comes out in December 2020, and a lot of people are speculating that's alongside the launch of the new console. Mm-hmm. Whoa. Also, as an Xbox fan, I say that because I own an Xbox. I'd probably be a PS4 fan if I owned a PS4. I got the Game Pass for 1 year for $1.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because I already owned Xbox Live, and they were like, $1 gets you Game Pass for the rest of your Xbox Live subscription. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll be playing a lot of new games soon, so I'm really excited.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's been great. As always, I think that's it for the episode, right, Tyler? Do we have anything? I didn't check to see if we have any new reviews. Do you want to talk about life real quick while I check to see if we have any new reviews or anything?
Sure. Yeah. It's
Put
been a lot of
pressure
cool
on you
stuff
right now.
going on. I plan to go back to Spider-Man PS4 so I can play the DLC because I have yet to play that.
Oh, yeah.
Game Pass came out on PC, so I'm going to be signing up for that. I think it's a separate subscription from the Xbox One, so I might drop the Xbox One because I don't use it. But the PC one I will probably use. They announced a Lego expansion for Forza Horizon 4, which looks really fun.
A Lego
check
expansion?
that out. Yeah.
Is that with Game Pass? Does that come with Game Pass?
Probably not. I know Forza does, but I don't think the expansions do, so I think you have to pay separate for those.
I would play. I love Lego so much. I would pay for that.
Me
100%. Too. Well, that's great. Yeah, E3 is going to be. We'll probably have more things to talk about next week then, for sure, with the E3 announcements. Because I'm excited.
Yep.
I think I haven't watched the new thing on Jedi Fallen Order yet, though.
Oh, I haven't watched it either. I've only seen the box art.
Yeah, I need to watch that. So, as always, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's very helpful. You can tweet at us at SneakerElf, ELPH for Tyler, or at mecoletta, MECOLETTA for me. You can also email us at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. Am I missing anything else, Tyler? I think that's it.
I think that's it.
I think we nailed it.
Yep.
And next week, we'll get more into some weird side Pokemon games. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.